Still life is a sculpture made up of several elements. It includes a carved wooden figure of a child laid on a glass bench beneath a glass table which is covered in chemistry equipment, including beakers, flasks and test tubes. The child, seemingly a boy, wears an old-fashioned cotton nightgown. His hands are clasped at his waist and his eyes are closed. Before I tell you any more about the piece, I'd like you to think about your first reactions to it. This is important because art is subjective. Everyone has their own ideas and opinions about it, and there are no wrong answers. Sometimes artists will tell you lots about their work and what it means, but many will leave it open for you to decide what you see and what story you find in it. What do you think is happening in this piece? How does it make you feel? What story might it be telling? Does it remind you of anything? If you're in class, you might want to share your ideas and discuss these questions as a group. If you're at home, you could write down your ideas in your sketchbook or record them as an audio file. If you're doing our poetry activity, you should stop and do your free writes now. Pause the video now to explore your ideas in response to these questions. Now I'll give you a little bit more information about still life based on what Paloma Varga Weisz has told us. When we exhibit living artists, they often come into the gallery to install or set up their work, and we get to talk to them about their work and what it means. Getting to meet the artists and talk to them about their work is a really interesting part of working in a gallery. Varga Weisz's mother was a wine chemist and had a laboratory in their home, so there was always lots of scientific apparatus around the house. Varga Weisz talks of playing in the kitchen by laying under a glass table covered in objects and pretending that she was Snow White laid in a glass casket. This installation echoes that childhood memory, but the wooden figure, rather than being a self-portrait, is a carving of Varga Weisz's son. He wears an antique nightgown which belonged to the family. The flasks and beakers on the table are the ones used by Varga Weisz's mother, so the piece includes several objects that could be thought of as family heirlooms. Now you know a little more about the artwork, think about or discuss these questions. Pause the video after each set of questions to discuss or write down your ideas. The artist chose to include several objects passed down from her mother and create a carving of her son. Why do you think she did this? What does the piece tell us about her feelings about her family, or about families in general? The wooden boy in the piece wears an old-fashioned nightgown. Why do you think the artist chose to clothe the figure like this? What effect does this have? How would the piece be different if he was wearing modern pyjamas or a t-shirt and jeans? Some of the items in the piece are quite old, but the glass table and bench are simple, geometric and modern. What effect does this have? Why do you think the artist chose this design? Do you see similar shapes anywhere else in the piece? How would the piece look different if the table and bench were old-fashioned? To put the piece in context within the gallery and the exhibition, the other work in this room all has strong links to Paloma Varga Weisz's family, including a portrait of her father and a video of the artist when she was younger making sculpture with her father. The room also contains Cabinet, a collection of carvings and found objects housed in her mother's old chemistry cabinet. There are also pieces called House and Magazine, inspired by the artist's childhood, which I'll share more info about in the next Art Encounters video. So we'd like you to take some inspiration from still life to create some artwork of your own. If you're doing our poetry activity, you can now look back at your free writes, reflect on and add to them, and use them to write a poem or short story. Another idea for a creative activity is to think about the things that Paloma Varga Weisz took inspiration from and use these to create a piece of your own. You could think about childhood memories, your family, play and imagination, and your heritage. Or you could think of an object or series of objects from your home that are important to you. They don't need to be things we might normally think of as family heirlooms that are old or valuable. They might just be everyday objects that have a certain significance or memory attached to them. Use these as a starting point to design a sculpture or installation. We'd love to see what you've made, whether that's a poem you've written, a sculpture that you've created, or just one you've designed. So make sure you or your teacher shares your work with us on our social media channels, as we'd love to feature it on our website.